TransMedics got hit by a short seller report, not your ordinary one. No, one with a $0 price target. Yes, you heard that right. A $0 price target. The short sellers are basically calling this company a complete fraud, and so it should be worth $0. We've seen with other short seller reports, stocks should be worth 50% less, 60, 70% less, but a short seller report with a $0 price target, to me, that's a first. That's a first. So throughout the day, actually first hour or so, TransMedics stock was down 16, close to 17%, but finished the day down 5.16%. So we've seen a very, very good rebound throughout the day. Maybe it's because the market realized that the short report was another hit piece, was something not that serious. But the title of the short report was quite serious, to be honest. So I would love to be in the room when Walid started to read it or actually got the news. Because if you have been following this channel or maybe my statements on X, I've always said that the CEO is quite arrogant, right? The way he's talking, the way he's explaining to analysts, answering questions, he's quite arrogant. And when you're that arrogant, you have to deliver the goods, right? You have to perform. You have to prove that your business, yes, is the best, like you are alluding it to. So yeah, let's see what happens. But let's touch on a couple of things that were mentioned in that report. I'm not going to lie to you. I did not read the whole 340 something pages. I did search for a couple of terms. Then I did also search for some things that were mentioned in the transcript. For example, they said that he keeps on talking about Medicare. Every single time he talks about Medicare, Medicare, Medicare. Now, I will admit, I'm not a professional or I don't know everything about Medicare or anything close to 100% about Medicare, the US health system, reimbursements and all of that. But what I can do is use Koifin. By the way, a lot of you have been using this platform, so I appreciate all the support. There is a link down in the description for 20% off. Now, what did I do? I did this advanced search, transcript search, and I searched for the term Medicare in every single transcript for TransMedics. And guess what? I only found 2, and the 2 that I found were from quite a while ago, which you can see right here. Medicare, TransMedics, once Q2 2019 earnings call, and then we've got another one here at the Cohen 41st Annual Healthcare Conference back in March 2021. Maybe he talks about reimbursements and other terms in the earnings calls and conferences. That can be. But they said he talks about Medicare every single time. Well, no, that's a lie. Anyways, before jumping even deeper into this short seller report with a $0 price target. If you enjoy this type of videos, hit all the buttons, like, subscribe, do all of that. We really appreciate that. If you want to support me even further, do check out the link down in the description and in the pinned comment with the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couchinvestor. Thank you very much. First of all, TransMedics has a market cap of $2.31 billion. The stock is down quite a lot since the peak in August 2024. In the last 3 months, the stock is down 50%. In the last 6 months, the stock is down 53.4%. It has a forward PE of 62.6 times, not the cheapest one out there. EV to sales 5.1 times. We've seen way more expensive than that, but this company is still expected to grow quite quickly. Yes, fiscal year 2025 growth, sales growth is expected to be 21.4%. Might be a low bar to start the year, maybe, but it's definitely nowhere near the 77% year-over-year growth that we're expecting for fiscal 24. But EPS-wise, this is still growing quite rapidly. So yes, you're paying a premium, but you're getting some solid year-over-year growth. At the time of making this video, there are 9 analysts covering this company, and the average analyst price target sits, 48.23% higher than the price we're at today. What should we expect for the next quarter? So revenue should re-increase quarter over quarter by just 0.67%. EBITDA is going to be down 3.78%. EBIT is going to be up 42.9%. EPS on a GAAP basis should be up 30.17%, and EPS on a non-GAAP basis up 26.33%. This is going to be important because they also make a ridiculous statement. They use a lot of words that make it seem extremely dramatic. Don't forget they have a short position, so the more drama they use and the more aggressive words that they use, the bigger the effect will be on the stock price. And so we've got this. Walk like an Egyptian. This is from the song, I would assume. A mafia-style extortion, racketeering, and organ trafficking scheme masquerading as a medical device company, fueled by kickbacks, billing fraud, unreported device failures, and off-label misuse on a vast scale, precipitating a customer exodus and rapidly unfolding death spiral. Price target, $0. They also are shortly filing a citizen petition with the FDA requesting suspension of pre-market approval of TransMedics OCS organ care system in conjunction with a public letter to members of Congress probing abuses in the US organ transplant system. By the way, to get approved by the FDA, to go through all the hoops and whatever the legal stuff that they had to go through to get this approved, TransMedics I'm talking about, not the short seller. I mean, they are basically accusing the FDA and everybody involved in all of this to actually not do their job correctly. So, yeah, fine. Anyways, overall, they talk about a lot, all right? This is basically what you get in the report, part 1, part 2, part 3, etc., etc. They accuse TransMedics of engaging in unethical and illegal activities, including extortion, racketeering, organ trafficking, etc., etc. They say that the company pressures surgeons to use potentially unsafe organs, leading to concerns about patient safety and dissatisfaction among transplant centers. There are claims of device failures, high cost, aggressive sales tactics, and lack of transparency, with some centers reducing or eliminating their use of TransMedics devices. TransMedics faces significant competition from newer technologies like OrganOx, Paragonix, LifePort, etc., etc. The company is accused of employing inexperienced technicians and unlicensed surgeons, leading to botched organ recoveries and poor patient outcomes. Regulatory scrutiny is increasing with calls for data transparency and potential investigations by FDA, DOJ, OIG, and IRS, lots of three-letter agencies. And so what we get here is a short seller report that is, well, attacking from all sides, using specific people, in my opinion, that don't like TransMedics, don't like Walid specifically. I mean, we've got here quotes that are saying CEO is so disingenuous and company is dishonest. CEO is an arrogant prick. I mean, yeah, when you see the quotes here, and then you see this thing right here, you should see Walid arrive at conferences. They show up in these blackened out cars and you think the president is showing up. It's like 3 blackened out SUVs. They all get out. They all look the same in their suits. Yeah, it's like Walid and his secret service, but it's the TransMedics folks. I mean, when you read these types of things, how can you take these guys seriously? Also, by the way, I know I'm acting all arrogant here, maybe, but by the way, full disclaimer, I have a small position in TransMedics. I'm currently down. My average is at $72. So, of course, this thing does not help. But we've gone over short seller reports on this channel before. And to be honest, if you have a, counter idea against a bullish thesis or against a company, why exactly do you need 342 pages to prove your point? Why do you need to use aggressive wording to prove your point? Is your point so worthless that you have to be so aggressive? Is that the case? Because when we look at these things, right, their CEO is pretty arrogant. He's an arrogant prick. All of that. You see, oh, they arrive in 3 blackened out SUVs. Wow, God forbid they're also in their suits. I mean, who cares, right? Of course they come in their suit. What, you want them to come in a bathing suit? This thing just doesn't make much sense. And by the way, all the claims from before, right? If the equipment doesn't work, inexperienced surgeons, etc., etc. It's not in TransMedics' advantage that these things happen, right? They write it as if, oh, they're doing it in purpose or on purpose, sorry. Maybe not. I don't know. Correct me down below. They act as if TransMedics wants to offer the worst service possible, the worst devices possible, because that will be great for their reputation, right? That makes sense. That's how they're going to reach 10,000 cases in 2028, by having a bad reputation. How does that make any sense? Now, I'll be the first to agree that if financially wise, quarter after quarter, we are seeing a decrease in revenue, in all of the segments, then yes, okay, for sure, we have to ask some questions. But until then, yeah, we've seen last quarter, right? We've seen last quarter a dip quarter over quarter for the first time, which, by the way, they also touched on that. So let's talk about that in just a second. But here again, you can see that the way that they're wording things to manipulate the reader. For example, talking again here about Medicare and reimbursements and stuff like that. The CEO on a 2023 call, this is a fact of organ transplant. All aviation and logistics transport are fully reimbursed through the same mechanism of organ acquisition. There's no limit, there is no limit. So, what was actually said? The analyst asked the following. We don't have visibility into these metrics, but just a ballpark on average, what's a typical case revenue that you've seen kind of push through the hospitals to reimburse for an average case on the revenue for aviation specifically? How should we think of that? So while it said here, I want to be cautious, this is not a question, this is a fact of organ transplant. I think the transcript here is a bit wrong by saying all. I think it's all aviation and logistics transport are fully reimbursed through the same mechanism of organ acquisition. The first time he mentions here there's no limit. There is no limit per se. In fact, we are doing this because we believe we could be more efficient and pass some of the efficiencies back to the transplant program. So I do not want anybody on this call to think that the aviation business is not reimbursed through normal mechanisms of organ transplants. There is no limit. There is no specifics. If the center feels that it's too expensive, they would ask another quote or get from another vendor, but it's fully reimbursed. So the aviation part of organ transplant logistics is not a profit center in itself, but a necessary service fully covered by existing healthcare reimbursement models. Again, if these things exist, why wouldn't a company use it? It's not a thing only for medical healthcare, or in this case, just TransMedics. No, in every single industry in the United States, in Europe, no matter what. If there are reimbursement programs, if there are specific programs that can help your business, why wouldn't you use those programs? It just makes total sense. Also, the fact that aviation is now part of their business. It also makes sense, no? You want to be vertically integrated. Remember last quarter, margins took a hit. Why? Because they had some planes that needed maintenance. They actually needed to use a third party, which means that margins got hit. So, of course, if they can do everything in-house and have their own planes, it will help margins in the future. It's not I don't want TransMedics because now they have planes. No, actually, they have planes because they want to make sure that the business runs smoother in the future. Of course, in the meantime, they can take some hits here and there. Still, planes, you have to train pilots, etc., maintenance, and all of that. And they even say this here, TransMedics is an airline with a medical device attached. At 7 times last 12 months revenue, a lofty multiple even by speculative mid-cap metrics. Yes, a lofty multiple for sure for a company that grew 77% year on year. Okay. The only relevant measure, of course, is EV to product sales, which is at 10x. That's not true. We've just seen that it's nowhere near 10x. With those sales tanking sequentially. Okay, let me read that again. With those sales tanking sequentially. Okay, interesting. Let me try and see where sales are tanking sequentially. Did we see that sales are down quarter over quarter? Did they give us a reason? Yes, okay, we might not have liked the reason behind it, but where exactly do we see sales tanking? Did it go down by a tiny fraction quarter over quarter? Yes, it did. Did it tank? No, it did not. And by the way, right now, we still have some solid growth ahead. The market is still expecting this company to turn free cash flow positive in fiscal 25, although lower than before, still $19.6 million in free cash flow in fiscal 25, and then $98.4 million in fiscal 2026. So growth well over 400% year over year. And so while it's true that a lot of short reports are deceiving, are basically made so that they can profit on the day, right? Because they have a position. So the more aggressive, the more dramatic that it is, the bigger the hit will be and the more money that they can make. Now, as we've seen, the stock did take a huge hit at the start of the day, but then recovered quite significantly. If we actually look at the chart here, or the chart graph, again, correct me down below, we can see that it actually closed out the week above the 20-day moving average. Of course, earlier this week, it was a little bit above the 50-day one. Would have been great to stay up there, but that was not the case. But still, we ended the week above the 20-day moving average. RSI is still pretty low, but all in all, short reports, they are here to, well, let's say, provide counter arguments to bullish theses. Sometimes, well, not that many times, but sometimes, okay, some points make sense. A lot of times it's, in my opinion, purely manipulation. And again, if you want to make your point, you can use normal words. You don't have to write 342 pages to make your point. So, okay, me personally, no, I did not buy the dip today because, again, I still want to see the business reaccelerate in growth next quarter and more comments on 2025. So that's why still a small position and I'm still waiting. As I've said from the start, Walid is a curious person, peculiar person maybe is a better word to use. If you've watched One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, that's peculiar. What does that mean? Anyways, it's one person that really talks a lot. Is quite aggressive on earnings calls and conferences. That's true. And maybe that's why some people might not like him. But that's not a reason to start using these types of words in a short seller report. But okay, but he talks a big game. He should deliver. If the market is so big and is growing, if they're still going to reach 10,000 cases by 2028, then seasonality should not be the excuse that they will use each and every quarter. So we'll see what happens. We're going to have an earnings report, an earnings call, conference as well. So I'm sure they will provide more details. So that's about it. If you have any extra information about the report that you read throughout the 342 pages, you can write it down in the comment section below. That's about it. Like, subscribe, do all of that, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.